welcome back to the latest episode of the Master and podcast. I'm your host, as always, Stephen Murphy, and I'm joined by the two usuals at this stage, Westy and Sam. Westy, a clean-shaven Westy, totally different looking. It is the same person for anyone who's listening or watching on YouTube. You look so different, but
I'm already clean-shaven though. I mean, it's still,
no, well, compared to
you
what
were very
you
clean-shaven yesterday. That's quick. That's quick stubble growth. Like,
yeah.
Can you hear it like at nighttime? Is it like bamboo? yeah.
Hear it rustling like.
Yeah. As you can tell, the lads are in pretty good spirits because we're recapping the two Pro 14 games at the weekend where Connacht happened to play Ulster and, spoiler alert, won.
Where are you from again, Smurf?
I'm from the county of Cavan.
Notice how quickly Smurf abandoned his Ulster jersey.
I don't even have an Ulster jersey.
You've been wearing an Ulster jersey on every podcast we've ever done.
Yeah, I've lost my twang as well. I've gotten more weshed. We'll start actually, of course, with the Connacht game, even though it was on Sunday, because I could not let you talk about it straight off the bat. So I think I'll start off by saying Ulster took the foot off the gas and took Cooney off, took Billy Burns off after like 55, 57 minutes.
Yeah, because they knew they'd lost at half time. They knew their opponents were far superior, so
look at Ulster got to throw Connacht a bone every now and then. Here you go. Enjoy it. Enjoy fourth place.
Sport or news talk that you were being paid by to pundit?
Both. I'm getting paid, bitches. I'm getting paid. No, genuinely, I thought it was, all joking aside, a great performance from Connacht. Looked solid all over. Looked like they hadn't had 5 months off, apart from the fact that everyone looked healthy and raring to go. I thought the new signings. What's so funny, Wesley?
The fact that we didn't have any. You said that it looked like we didn't have time off, apart from the fact that everyone was happy and healthy.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean.
Everyone's healthy because we had time off. We didn't have 17 injuries like we normally do.
It didn't look like the first game of the Premierships or the Super Rugby where there was 30 penalties, or it didn't look sloppy. Do you know what I mean? I thought the new signing, Wooten was very good. Well, look, I'll let you get into it. Sam, go ahead for 45 minutes and talk about this.
I try and keep it down, but no, it was a great game to watch as a Connacht fan. Like, I was still nervous right through it, right up to the last, because we didn't pull away. I don't think we ever at any point were that much better that we should have pulled away into the position of being 2-3 scores up. But I think what we did now, and it's definitely been worked on, defensive structure. Even when we went down to 14 men, we held them out, which all this season we've been absolutely ruining poor defensive, not defensive structure, but poor defensive decisions in structures that look like when they get the hang of it, they'll work properly. I don't know if the reason Andy Friend brought in, say, Wooten and Sullivan, because they buy into a system a bit more than other wingers who've been let go by Connacht. Maybe that was in his mind, with the reason why some of the wingers that we were kind of confused by, the likes of Adi Loken and Leader being let go, but maybe they just couldn't buy into a system or work on a system as well as he'd like. But I thought that structurally we were excellent. It was brilliant to see the free flowing rugby. I know Munster Leinster was probably objectively, a better game in air quotes, he says. I just think that watching the free flowing kind of nature of Marmion and McCarthy, Bundy looked like he was letting loose. The back three were all excellent. There wasn't a bad performance from any Connacht player, which was delightful to see. I think, I was watching it with Westy, which was great, being able to watch a match with someone else, in the house and screaming and cheering. And
non-biased views as well.
Annoying my girlfriend who was upstairs.
Every time the ref was like, "Oh, no way!" No.
Yeah. Well, we can get onto the ref later because I stand by those views. But the pack, we were 40 kg lighter in the first scrum, and I don't think you would have noticed that 40 kg in the slightest. I thought our scrum stood up really well, barring the one when just after Murphy got the yellow card and we went down to 7. That's class. Porter's try, Porter's assist, both brilliant. Great to see Ainger getting a try, and then absolutely brilliant to see Bundy Aki welcoming Madigan back into the league.
Poor Madigan.
Poor chap was just eyeing him up, and he's never been the best of tacklers anyway. He's always tackled a bit high. He's always been a bit slight in terms of an out half. But Bundy was it's not just 6 more kg of muscle. He's also swapped about 20 kg of chub for 20 kg of muscle. So he's so strong.
You could tell by the commentators because they they were like, oh, Bundy gets the ball with like 10 meters to go, and then the next line's like, oh, he's over the line. They're just kind of shocked by how quickly.
He took about 3 lads with him, like he just,
I know, incredible.
Brilliant.
Westy, what about you?
Yeah, I think there's a brilliant moment that's been referenced a few times now, about 36 seconds into the game, where Bundy cuts Craig Gilroy in half, and it honestly, I think it really is important, because it sets the tone for how Connacht will defend for the rest of the game. Like Bundy never takes a back step after that, and neither do many of the Connacht defensive line. Everyone is straight up. I think people go on about like Ulster kind of taking. Or I've got 2 points here. People go on about Ulster taking their eye off the prize because they had nothing to fight for. And that's why their systems fell apart. Their systems fell apart because Connacht's line speed smothered them. They didn't have time to make decisions. Burns was targeted by the Connacht runners. Like, they went straight for him, and he was clearly shook. McCluskey couldn't get free. They couldn't get ball to him, and we shut down Coetzee as well. So I think that tackle, as impressive as it was, it does set a tone for Connacht always pushing up in defence and shutting down space for Ulster. And further to that point, sorry, go on, Sam.
You say, like, we're just shutting down Coetzee and the tackle and being aggressive on the front foot. Like, there's the things that we had noticed at the weekend, and like, we've been decimated by Coetzee on a number of occasions, and shutting them down the way we did definitely helped our game plan. And then just furthering on to what you were saying about the defensive, like, hitting and not taking a back step, I was so impressed with Marmion, not just offensively but defensively. He was dumping big lads and defending, like wrap up tackles on his own try line, which was the area of his game that people questioned maybe was the reason why McGrath went to the World Cup ahead of him, which I think is bullshit, because for years Marmion has always been so strong. But it was great to see him, like, literally lift up forwards and dump them on their back. So the kind of that precedence was set by Bundy early on, but then everyone just was hitting so hard in defence. It was great to see.
What was your second point, Westy?
The narrative painted towards Connacht. Sorry, am I gone? Am I here?
No, you're there.
No, you're there.
Yeah. The narrative all week was, well, it'll be interesting in Connacht come out what they're going to do, because they've got nothing to play for. So let's see what they do, which is bosh, because Connacht always have something to play for, because we're always treated like a foreign team in our own country. And now that we beat Ulster, everyone's like, well, Ulster had nothing to play for. So, are you surprised? And it's like a week ago, we had nothing to play for. The night before, they've got nothing to play. Like, no one had nothing to play for. It's an equal playing field. It's a ridiculous narrative that anybody tried to paint about us the week before.
Can you give me a minute? I'll go get a violin, because this has turned into a pity stuff. He's won a game. Be happy.
Oh no, I'm over the moon. Absolutely over the moon. I was so impressed by a lot of players.
All I'm saying is that now it's changed that Ulster have nothing to play for.
Yeah, I was so impressed by a lot of our players, like the debutants. I think there was 6 in the end. Like, Ainger scoring the try was great for him, but then say the likes of Wooten coming in, Sullivan coming in, then it was lovely to see Daly come off the bench and have, like, want to make an impact in his 5-10 minutes. He hit about 3 or 4 lines straight away. Thornbury was class, and thank God we found out earlier today that it was just concussion, just precautionary, which is brilliant to see, because I think he'll be pushing for an Ireland squad place if he keeps playing that way. Like, he was disrupting the line out so much. It was at one point we had a penalty, and I just said to Westy, put it in the corner, because we're disrupting their line out so much. We were so on top of them with line outs. You might as well take advantage of it. And with him and our boy Niall Murray being as tall as he is, Delan being there, like, and then Quinn Rue to come back, you're fairly chuffed with that second row selection opportunities. So overall, no, it was so good to watch. And then, on Munster, or on Ulster's kind of behalf, like, I'm not saying Ulster took their foot off the gas or anything, because I hate that narrative. I think it's really unfair on Connacht, and it does get banded around anytime Connacht get a win in an Interpro. But I thought the Ulster strength and conditioning team have something to answer for, because the front row looked way off the pace straight away. Like, Connacht came back looking like they were on the pace and ready to play and ready to hit, even though there's only 2 games realistically, and then back into another preseason. But Murray Moore was just completely off it. I
was going to say, Murray Moore, like, and don't get me wrong, I'm in no position to say anything, but he looked I know they have to be big, but he looked unhealthily big.
Yeah, and McGrath didn't look
similar,
up to the pace,
yeah.
and they didn't look up to the pace at all. Like, and it didn't look like they were bulking up. It genuinely, and you know, I can be an armchair critic all I want. Like, I'm not any prize peach. Like, I wouldn't stand up in an arm wrestle against any rugby player, but I thought that they were embarrassing, considering they had about 40 kg in the forwards on our pack, and yet were in no way dominant and dominated at some points. There was one scrum that it went against Connacht because the scrum rules are complete bullshit, but Connacht completely ran over it, and Beelum got up fuming when the whistle was blown because they had abused it, and the fact that Ulster allowed it to wheel, they ended up getting their own penalty, which I hate that rule. I think it's so ridiculous. I think if you're dominating in a scrum and you're going forward, you win that scrum. But
yeah, I agree in that. But yeah, just a shout out to Niall Murray. Obviously, come on. I didn't realize when we were interviewing him, Sam, how much of a giant that man actually is. He's fucking huge.
He's so tall. I mentioned it. I mentioned him when we were chatting to him because I remember in the sports ground we came on. I was like, that guy is like, because he was pre his 12 kg.
Yeah.
Like, he was just a complete beanpole, but geez, he's a big lad. Like,
he's big, and he got a couple of carries. You know what I mean? So fair play to him. When he come on, and possibly we don't know at this stage, but might get the start this weekend. Let's hope so. Anyway,
I'd say he could be in for a start. Like, don't know what Andy Friend said with the 15 changes. I could see Delahunt, Robson McCoy himself coming in. I'd say Ainger might get the start. You know, and then the back row. I'm dying for a bit of Abraham Papali'i. Just see this boy now. Masterson came out in the paper the other day. I was reading an interview with him. He said he described him. He's the potential to be Connacht's Nick Williams. I was like, oh, if he's anywhere near Nick Williams, I'd be happy.
Yeah, so, that's not bad at all. From the Ulster side of things, Cooney didn't really get much going. Burns sort of similar. A few nice pieces from Burns, but we have to say, like, when Matthewson came on, Aldi Matthewson came on, and Madigan came on, it seemed to be a bit more going on for them lads. So I don't know. I think definitely a lot left to be desired from Ulster in the sense of, you know, they have a semi-final coming up soon. But definitely wasn't the best performance from them. But definitely, I think Connacht full deserved of the win. They looked fantastic.
There was definitely, there was some positives from Ulster. I do still think, like, once McCluskey got into space, I thought he was brilliant. Like, I do think he is. I think he's a very underrated centre. I thought Kieran Treadwell in the second row is one of the only reasons their scrum functioned as well as it did. I think Stockdale at fullback was okay. We didn't really ask too many questions of him with high balls. He wasn't really tested in that same way that we'll talk about Larimer been tested in the other game. But yeah, I think Connacht put them under pressure and really shut down what they could do with the ball. I mean, a great summation of that is the last 20 minutes where we just forced them to stay inside their own 22, kick back out, and we just kicked it back to them and just let them play in that 22 until we had an opportunity to score.
Well, that seemed to be a thing. The first play, they kicked it off the Connacht, and the Connacht kicked it straight back. So that seemed to be, they were definitely going to back themselves defensively from the first minute. So they're obviously very confident in that sense, which is great. But I seen a lot as well. There was a lot of confidence, like even the first try, Buckley, lovely little pass back to Carty. Are we getting back to a stage where we could see Connacht kind of the Pat Lam era of lovely little offloads, forwards, very comfortable passing? Is that coming back? Well, obviously, you two think it is. Sorry, who am I even asking?
I don't think that's ever gone away. Even since Pat Lam, I think we didn't tick at all under Kieran Keane, and that's like. But since, even Pat Lam's last season, which wasn't very successful, and last year under Andy Friend, I think it was the systems that weren't working as opposed to the handling. We've always been a skillful team. We've always had inventiveness. We've always had a lot of offloading. Like Beelum and Buckley are two of the best ball playing props you'll see. Heffernan as well. McCartney was always very good at it. I don't think that's ever been an issue. I think it was the systems that weren't working or weren't learnt yet. But for me, everything looked like everyone had was a lot more tuned into what they were supposed to be doing. It wasn't offloading for the sake of offloading. It was smart offloads. Like you saw 2 or 3 times Carty was getting it behind a dummy runner and playing it out the back. And then Carty had the kind of wherewithal to hold on to the one for Portia's try and then give it again. I think that's always been in their mind, is to give the offload as much as possible and to have the license to. I think it's now hopefully has been worked on, and that's why we saw kind of the fruits of that is working on the systems that allow those offloads to really shine and kind of make hay. So I don't think we've ever not been an offloading team. I think it's just taken a while for Andy Friend really to put his stamp on the whole thing, and I hope that this is signs of things to come in what Andy Friend can do with his team and what we're aiming to do, because it looked like everyone had a lot more knowledge about them, about what they should be doing positionally wise, structure wise, follow up, ruck, and like there was one point where Connacht were just not hitting defensive rucks. They were just fanning out instantly. There was one jackal, and if he didn't make it, they were gone. They weren't trying to counter ruck, and it was defensively so successful. So I hope that this is the signs of things to come, and we continue to build on that performance and use those structures, and it wasn't just a one-off kind of emotion-based game after 6 months off and having a chance to beat Ulster in Lansdowne Road.
I think the conditions were perfect for it as well. And that goes both ways. The conditions were perfect for people to play rugby in the Aviva. There was no wind, it was dry, and again that really does suit the kind of open attack-minded quick ball that Connacht want to play and have been trying to play the last few years. It's obviously very different when you're in the sports ground. There's rain coming at you from every direction, and there's wind, and there's no way to judge what way things are going to go.
Yeah, definitely. What do we think before we're going to leave the Connacht game there? But what do we think about the fake crowd noises? Do we like them?
I don't have a problem with it. I think the only time it doesn't work naturally is the same as with soccer, when there's something that's really close and someone obviously clicks a button, or there's some sort of algorithm that thinks the try is scored. It happened more in the Munster game with Dialande wasn't over the line. That happens in the soccer as well. There's like a fake cheer and then it like tones down. But I think it does in terms of watching it. Like I've watched so much Bundesliga and so much Premier League behind closed doors, and I've watched a mix of both with the crowd noise and without. And once you get used to the crowd noise, it's perfect. I think it was really interesting for a week or two to kind of just listen to what the players are saying, and I like that. And it would be nice to have an option watching it on Air Sports or TG Car to have the option, because you get such an insight. Like I heard on Off the Ball earlier on, what's your man, that Rory O'Connor was just talking. He said like Bundy Aki is famously like one of the most vocal players on the pitch, and Connacht are such a loud team, whereas Ulster were quite quiet. And I like seeing the ins and outs of those sort of things, because I just like kind of knowing what's going on. It's really it interests me to see what they're calling, what they're talking, how they're keeping in communication with each other. So I'd love to see it without, but I do think that it's not bad.
Yeah. What about you, Westy? I think Westy's having some technical issues, is he?
Oh, he's back now.
You said it on the day.
Yeah, there you go. You're back.
Sam, you were saying on the day when we were watching the game, even Jared Butler who had a fantastic game. There were times where you could, there's one time in particular I'm talking about where we could hear someone shout, "Leave it, Jared!" And it was great, as Sam said, to hear that communication from Connacht players. So again, if you could maybe tone down the crowd noises during kind of open play, or turn them off, and then have them kind of come on for kind of big moments, I guess. I don't know. Maybe there's a better way we can do it. I don't miss the crowd, really. I'm happy enough to have silence.
I did read somewhere that coaches were worried about their calls getting worked out quickly because they were going to be audible, which I thought was quite funny. Just like, we come up with these code names at like, underage rugby level. You're like, oh, X1, Y1. They'll never know what's going on. Yeah. And then you hear that like the lads who playing like international standard rugby have the same worry that like someone will work out what their cool code name being like.
I didn't mind the crowd noise at all. I actually forgot that there wasn't a crowd. That's how good I thought the crowd noise was. But I did notice, as you said, Sam, in the Munster game when Dale Enden nearly got over, that's when I actually finally copped on. I was like, oh yeah, they're putting fake crowd noise in because it was so obviously mistimed. But interesting to see what they do from now on. But we'll move on to Munster Leinster, which was Saturday evening. Yeah, exactly. Who? We'll see this Sunday who they are. Connacht boys. Munster.
They should have just done like, instead of the Pro 14, they should have gone like Super Rugby era and just done like a 4-team.
I like it. It would be very similar quality too. Obviously, the big news from this game was the disappointing departure for R.G Snyman after 7 minutes, which was just heartbreaking, and of course was revealed this morning that he's tore his ACL. So that's going to be months and months and months before he's even back in action. So a bit of an expensive injury for Munster. seeing as God knows how much they've paid him, but he's not going to be available for a while. But as I said this before last week on our preview podcast, but I thought Munster had a real opportunity here to, I suppose it is an upset necessarily with Leinster these days, but I thought that Leinster might have been a bit slow out of the gates, like a lot of teams are after 5 months off. Even Leinster, how great they are. And they were a bit sluggish. They were definitely 75-80%, are we thinking, like, roughly, of what they can actually play? But Munster just sort of, I don't know, lacked a bit of a killer edge. And Leinster, like great teams do, like Crusaders do, had a 10-minute stretch there where they scored 2 tries, and then that seems to be the difference, that they have that gear they can go to, whereas some teams can't. But Westy, what did you kind of think? Do you think this was a real opportunity for Munster? Or?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm going to kind of echo something that Keith Wood said this last night on Off the Ball. I think kind of everything from the Munster side really reeked of effort. Like, they really got stuck in, they really dug deep, and they really had to work to get their tries. Whereas, I know it's a lot of work from Leinster, but like a lot of those tries just looked effortless. Like Johnny Sexton's thread of the ball to Ryan Baird for the low try, like it's just second nature to them. I think Munster had about 60-65% overall possession. Leinster gave away somewhere in the mid-teens in penalties. I think nothing against Leinster, but I think Munster will be looking at that as that was their opportunity. Really, they really could have won that game.
100%. Yeah. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, Munster will rue it, because I think that the longer it goes without Munster winning in Dublin, and the longer that narrative takes hold, it's annoying when you have those sort of things. Like Connacht, we found it last year with Ulster. It was like, haven't beaten Ulster, Ravenhill in 60-something years, and that just builds up. So Munster they'll definitely be annoyed at not capitalising on the opportunity that was presented to them. I thought Munster played really well, and it's ironic, like, that Munster played really well and couldn't win, and it looked like Leinster were making a few silly errors and still getting away with it. I didn't think Leinster were their usual impressive self, but I didn't think that they were in any way bad either. But Sexton had a great game, which worries me personally from an Irish point of view, that it's going to be another 2 years of seeing Sexton get a load more caps and no experience for any of the other able out halves in the country, and just further cementing that idea that we don't have any experience behind him. But I did think he was very good. The pass he gave for Baird for Lowe's try it was like we talked about Carty's. He had the wherewithal to hold on to it and then give it. And then I thought the Munster wings were excellent. It was so unfortunate for Snyman to go off injured, but the Munster wings and Diolande I thought was very good, even though I've read countless times that he wasn't. I thought he played brilliantly for someone who has not played with this team before and has probably not played in 6 months. He drew in people when he did. He had a lot of runs, like a lot of lines that he wasn't being given the ball, but used as a decoy, the same way like in the Bristol game the other day, like Semi Radradra got countless times was running lines that he was never passed to, but they would have been absolutely brilliant lines if he was getting the ball. So overall, I think Munster will be a bit disappointed they didn't capitalise on it, because I thought they had the opportunity. I think JJ Hanrahan was good, but you're definitely missing a little bit of quality there at out half. I thought Murray was pretty good. It was nice to see him playing well again. It's been well over 2 years since we can kind of realistically say he's played anywhere near his best. And nice to see if this break has done him well in his neck. He's over the neck injury, would be good. But yeah, I think Munster will definitely go into, if they get Leinster again in the semi-finals, go into that with a lot of confidence, because it was there for them if they wanted it. One missed conversion to kind of lose the game. So
that's it. I think then that is the main question that I had coming out of that game was the JJ Hanrahan question. Kind of, is he good enough basically to lead Munster to a final, or is he enough to lead them to obviously if Carberry's fit, it's his position, but obviously he's not going to be probably till the new year at the earliest. So is JJ Hanrahan, I don't know, I'm sort of mixed. Well, the last time I doubted a fly half, it was fucking Richie Mwanga, so that obviously turned out well. So maybe JJ Hanrahan could be the Irish Richie Mwanga. But Wes, do you think does he have the quality to lead Munster that way?
I think he does. I think he kind of gets a little bit unfairly scapegoated a lot of the time. I mean, I saw this afternoon his kicking stats for the year, 90%. Like, he is among the top kickers in the competition.
Yeah, I do think back when you say the pressure kick, though. Remember the drop goal attempt against Racing? Was it Racing? Which but the thing is, he kicked the monster kick from the touchline before that to get them to that stage, and then he missed the drop.
From the good side, in the games, from the good side. My criticism of him has nothing to do with the kicks. I don't tend to criticize many out halves on their kicking unless it's drastically affecting your team. I think it's an important part of their game, but it's not their entire game. My criticism is more, I don't think he's the quality, like Smurf is saying, to lead that Munster team through till January. I think if this was a 1 month injury mid-season, like you go into the season with the likes of Carberry, and then Carberry goes down for the whole month of October or the whole month of November, fine. You got him in for a month, it's fine. He's a good and enable backup. Definitely enable backup. He's good enough to be a backup. I don't think he's good enough to be the starting out half with what they have behind him. I think that there's too much of a drop between Carberry and him, and then too much of a drop between him and the next. So I don't think he's a good enough one. If Munster really have their sights set on winning leagues and doing well in Europe, I think that they need someone else if Carberry's going to be out for a long period of time. I don't think they'll get it, just with the amount of signings they've already had, like the amount of money that's been thrown around with a few of these big name World Cup winning players. I don't know how they'd be able to get away with looking for anyone other than a medical joker or something. But it's just... Yeah. I'm not doubting his ability, but I just rate him more. His ability, I don't think, is up there with Carberry's in terms of leading a team to winning a league or winning Europe. I think if he wants, like, he'd perfectly happy to start at a lot of teams in the league, like, a Dragons or an Ospreys or a Cardiff or something. I don't think he's good enough for, if Munster have the aspirations they have, I don't think he's good enough to be a starter for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, I do. I that's the kind of question I have myself. And I watched it the other night thinking that he's definitely a good player, don't get me wrong, but as you said, if they're going to try and win trophies, is he going to be the man to lead them? Because it's often said before, but if the fly half is like a quarterback in the NFL, like everything goes through them, that's positive, and they lead the team in a lot of ways. So we'll see. Look, I'm happy to be proven wrong by him. I hope he does do well, but we'll see. I thought a few of the Leinster players sort of didn't really perform to their highest abilities. I thought James Lowe was, and I've been a big fan of James Lowe, and there's no doubting him going forward. But I think defensively, Westy, did we see a few kinks in the armour?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, look, we've kind of touched on it a few times on this podcast that all you ever hear is positives for Jordan Larimer, and rightly you should. He's a young guy with a lot of talent, but I think for once, the box kicking really kind of exposed a weakness here, and that was Larimer under the high ball just wasn't good enough. Now, look, this works both ways because Sexton had a variety of kicks in the Conway direction, and Conway didn't always deal with them fantastic either. But I think James Lowe was good, not fantastic. I thought Larimer was, as usual, decent ball in hand, but defensively not strong. And then was it Davey on the other wing who might as well not have been there?
Don't say that. Keano will be on to you. God.
I thought it was interesting, and it's something we mentioned months ago at this stage, where I don't fancy Larimer as a fullback. I think he's a winger, really. I think at the end of his career, if he has a successful career as we think he might, it will be mainly from the wing and someone else coming at fullback, be that Stockdale or be that anyone else who's got the opportunity. I think it's telling that Stockdale is training as a fullback and playing as a fullback now, because there's a conversation being had somewhere about Larimer. But we asked it a few months ago, has Larmour or Lowe been tested properly defensively? And I don't mean Lowe's ability to absolutely smash someone because he's a unit, because we know he can do that. But defensive structure, to be put under pressure for a prolonged period of time, it hasn't happened to Leinster this season at all. It hasn't happened really since Sarries bet them. They have not been under prolonged periods of time of pressure, and that's when your defensive abilities tell. There's no doubting that Larmour and Lowe can both put in a tackle, but it's being able to maintain it. And I think that Munster had opportunities, and they built on pressure and they built on time, and like Conway stepped them so easily. And I just think that's where you lose your concentration when you're defending for that long of a time. So it's something that, if these are the players that are going to start for Ireland week in, week out, they need to be seen and tested. And it's unfortunate that they probably won't be playing at Leinster, because Leinster are going to be dominant in Ireland and Europe for quite some time. But their defensive capabilities need to be tested for prolonged periods of time, for full matches where they're under the cosh. So it's too hard a thing to concentrate on. Larmour, I thought, was no good in the air. He was just muscled out of being even close to contesting for it in the air at some points, which was very worrying from an Irish point of view. Because the one thing, and I won't praise Rob Kearney too much, because I haven't rated him for a good few years in terms of an Irish place, but the one thing he has always been is able to get under the ball regardless of where it is and who is in his way. So you want to hope that improves, and he's training it non-stop.
Like a young John Porch.
John Porch, or like Andrew Conway, who I do think, I don't think he caught everyone at the weekend, but I think he's always there and contesting in the air, and he most of the time is very, very good at it. And he's similar kind of stature, maybe a little bit smaller.
Yeah, he's definitely not much of a bigger man, if at all a bigger man.
No, I think he's probably smaller than Larmour.
Yeah.
He's quite small now in terms of his height, but he's very consistent in the air, and maybe Larmour can grow into that. But unfortunately, Leinster have the ball so much that he's not going to get a chance to regularly do it on the pitch.
Yeah. I think, look, we're all guilty of overreacting after one game, like we always do. But Leinster will be fine, as in, they're going to probably be great this weekend coming up. I know they might not have the strongest team for them out, but it's still going to be a very competitive team. But
very interesting to see who they go with out half, because I know the Ross Byrne, Harry Byrne debate is raging. Supposedly Harry Byrne is going to take that spot and take it with two hands.
Which should mean Ross should be leaving then.
Well, I don't think so. I'd say the idea would be that Harry Byrne takes over from Sexton and Ross Byrne stays where Ross Byrne is.
But Ross is not going to wait another 8 years for Sexton to retire, Sam.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. If he's going to play forever, let him play forever.
What did we think of Ryan Bird and his performance, Westy? Did you see it as a fellow second rower?
Odd time second rower for Division 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams. I thought he was very good. I thought his work rate was very high. He was very hungry for work. I think that's the kind of debut you want. Even take out the involvement in the try for a second. Even without that, that's exactly the kind of statement you want to make when James Ryan, who starts ahead of you, is out injured, and Ian Henderson is also out, so there's a spot open in the Ireland squad. That's what you want. You want to have a busy game. You want to make an impact, and I think he did. Okay, their line out wasn't great. I think Munster kind of exploited Leinster in line out a little bit. But other than that, I mean, that's not really his fault. But other than that, I think his presence was felt in all around the Leinster Park. Yeah,
just before Sam, I asked you as well. I did make note that Sexton was asking his opinion when it came to penalty decisions, where to either go for the, for the line out and whatnot. So they obviously view him as a leader, as a possibly future captain for the team. So that was pretty impressive to see, and really shows.
I don't know how Leinster are going to fit in all these future captains.
I know,
yeah. They've got 6 future captains.
Yeah, co-captains, Sam. Co-captains.
Co-captains, yeah.
It was Sam. What did you see? Again, your very extensive second row knowledge. What did you think of Ryan Bird?
Well, he fits all the characteristics of what I know a second row should be, and that's tall and slightly more athletic than a front row. I think he was. I thought he was very good. I think, unfortunately for him, throughout his career, because of the similarities in his path into his position he has with James Ryan, I'm pretty sure they went to the same secondary school and were like a couple of years apart. And then now he's playing the same position as him, similar build, same team. I think that people are going to constantly call him the new James Ryan and watch him when James Ryan's not playing, and it'll be very telling to see how he steps up to that. I think he did himself so many favors the weekend because he played brilliantly. He looked imposing. He didn't look young. He didn't look out of his depth. Between himself and Kelleher, they were making line out decisions and they were conversing. So I think it's all great signs, for Ireland and for Leinster if he continues to develop the way he is, because they've got some amount of them there slowly pushing Big Dev back on the depth chart.
I was going to say,
Big Dev's an enforcer though, Sam.
Speaking of
he's brings the fire.
Speaking of tall rugby players, Big Dev is back and makes a game-winning interception, which he actually just tripped over and just fell onto the ball, which is again, it's lucky he's 7 feet tall, but still. No, we slag Big Dev, but we do that because of Leinster fans sometimes. And by the way, not all Leinster fans are bad. I also don't want that to come across, but some of them don't help themselves. And the people who were comparing Dev Toner to Snyman need to stop. And that's just it. But we'll not get into that. We said we'd touch on a couple of Irish positions. Sam, you kind of brought it up as well. Positions that are sort of not necessarily nailed on, such as the hooker, kind of full back. So, Sam, did you see anyone who kind of stood out that might be like, okay, they're kind of making a claim for that jersey?
Hooker-wise, I think by far the best of the weekend was Dave Heffernan. I thought he was he was in the Ireland squad when the Six Nations got cut short, and he definitely would feel very aggrieved he didn't get back into the squad. He's done himself some favours there at the weekend. He played really well. He was one of the few hookers that was consistent with the line-out. I think there was one bad throw from him throughout the entire thing. Tackling-wise, athletically, he was very good. He was tuned in. He didn't dive on the ball once when there was a mix-up from the Ulster line-out, and me and Westy were both cursing and going, you have to dive in the ball, you have to dive in the ball. And then the very next time, the first thing he did was dive straight down the ball. So, I thought he was probably the pick of my hookers for the weekend, and I'd love to see him getting into that.
That Ireland statement without context.
There's your voice clip now for you, YouTube.
I'm gonna have to tell Corey that you are up to no good as always.
But I think he should be given his opportunity in Ireland jersey. I hate to see someone go into a Six Nations, and it happens to a few Connacht players the odd time, going to a Six Nations, training for the entire 5 weeks and not getting even 10 minutes in a jersey. I'd love to see him given the opportunity, because I think he can definitely step up to it. And now with Tom McCartney retiring, it's his year really to step up and make that big step up, because Kelleher will be asking questions behind him. He's highly touted and everyone presumes going to be the next Irish hooker, but there's definitely an opportunity for anyone to grab the jersey if they want it.
So Westy is a fellow Ballina man. Your thoughts on Heffernan?
Yeah, went to primary school with David.
Oh God!
That's my dad and having coffee with Shannon Frizzell.
What story?
Having coffee near Shannon Frizzell, I should say.
You're gonna feel like a third wheel now when Shannon Frizzell and Dave Heffernan end up off the coffee together, and you're not invited.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "Do you ever meet that Westy?" Yeah, we did. Yeah, he was a nice guy.
No, I thought Dave had a fantastic game. One or two moments of hesitation that really shouldn't be held too high against him. I think he looked like someone again who was trying to show that he deserves a spot in the Ireland squad and that he will take his spot and his space in the Ireland squad back. I do think that Niall Scanlon played quite well for Munster as well. I think their line out was second, probably only to ours in how well it functioned. Kelleher was very good around the park in terms of work rate. Defensively was very good, but set piece wise, maybe a little bit there left to be desired. So yeah, Herring, I don't know how long he's going to be out injured for, but if we're playing Italy 2 weeks from now, I think there's no question Dave Heffernan starts.
Yeah, well,
I know it's not 2 weeks from now. I'm just saying for Herring.
Yeah, and also very tanned Dave Heffernan, so that's going for him too.
Always rocks a good tan.
Always rocks a good tan.
That's the weather out west, man. That's what we get.
That's Ballina.
Costa del Ballina.
Yeah.
Natural beds, man.
Full back position then, Westy. Do you think, obviously before this break, it was sort of Larmour's jersey. Has that changed in your eyes, or is it definitely up for grabs?
Well, I never really agreed
I know
that it was
you
Larmour's jersey.
But it seemed to be Larmour's jersey.
I think it's definitely up for grabs. I mean, I genuinely, and I am 100% biased, but I don't think you can argue John Porch was the best fullback of the weekend. There's no argument there. I I think after that weekend, if I'm picking an Irish fullback, I think it's Andrew Conway. I think, look at again, not a perfect performance, but I just think, again, as you say, contested for every high ball, got up there, got in people's faces. 2 very good tries. The last one in particular, stepping low. And then I know he got a little bit of assistance. I think was it Jeremy Lockman or someone who latched on, but power then to drive over the line. I think he brings the most versatile set of skills to the fullback position. Larmour is great if he takes a ball deep and has space to build up a head of steam and then has a step. But we've criticised before that his decision making isn't always correct. He often steps back into contact.
Yeah. He overdoes it sometimes.
Yeah. So I think at the minute for me, yeah, after the weekend, it's Conway.
Yeah, I would, if I was picking, I would have, Conway fullback. I'd have Larmour on the wing, maybe with Stockdale. Stockdale hasn't overly impressed me in a long time.
No, and then Earls might have something to say about that
Earls
as well.
again was Earls is just not going to play bad. He just hasn't, he's never going to steal the show, but he's never going to let you down really either. That's just a key to Earls. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I thought Larmour was disappointing in terms of his ability on high ball. There's no questioning his ability to run. Like he's almost like a running back, like Westy said. He takes that last bit of contact because he doesn't pass it too often. He steps back inside quite a lot. I'd like to see him more on the wing. I know that they have Rob Kearney there for a couple more weeks, so maybe this weekend we'll see Rob Kearney and you might see Larmour on the wing. And I don't rate Stockdale too highly as a fullback. I haven't in the few games I've seen him play fullback. I thought he was kind of left in no man's land this weekend playing at fullback, whereas on the other side, I think John Porch was brought more into the game playing at fullback. So it's quite ironic that the playing of fullback actually was detrimental to Stockdale's ability to get involved and more influential for Porch's ability to get involved. I just think Stockdale's probably training there because of the question marks about Larmour's physicality in the air and stuff. Stockdale is a specimen. And if he trains and gets himself good getting in the air, he'd probably cement an Irish place a little bit more than he would cement it being just a winger. But I don't think either of them really, you couldn't have either of them over Conway based off the weekend alone. Based off entire careers, you could have different conversations, but Conway should be your starting fullback with probably Larmour and Stockdale or Larmour and Earls as your wingers for Ireland. Based off the weekend, next weekend you might see Tiernan O'Halloran back in the mix, boom, fly it. But, based off last weekend, you've got to have Conway fullback and Stockdale not in fullback and Larmour not in fullback.
Yeah, look, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, I think. Well, I am definitely getting ahead of myself for Conway at fullback. Like Shane Daly had a great game at fullback. Like I thought he played very well. I think he's very promising. But I still think the skill set I see from Conway week in, week out, I think if I was picking a fullback for Ireland, I don't think Stockdale or Larmour are fullbacks. They're both wingers, in my opinion. And Shane Daly's not quite there yet, so I would.
No, and Conway's played fullback. Conway's played fullback and shown that he can be competitive in the air, whereas I don't think either Stockdale or Larmour have. They played fullback and not done that, whereas Conway's played fullback and done that. And that's one thing that it's going to be targeted, and it has been targeted by English teams, Welsh teams, French teams against us in the last few years. It's been just test that fullback. Like when it's not Rob Kearney, there is something you can get at. When we don't have Rob Kearney, the ball comes down all the time. So I think for the moment you put in Conway and then you look at who's coming through in the next few years. Like
the last thing I'll say on fullback, and hear me out, 2 words: Robbie Henshaw.
Tiernan O'Halloran.
Robbie Henshaw. Who says no?
He looked, in fairness to him at the weekend, he looked like he's lost a bit of kind of, I'm not going to say, mass, because he looked like he was chunking up for Leinster as a kind of battering ram 12. But now with Bundy playing the way he is, maybe the mindset's changed, and Henshaw is going to try and be Bundy's partner at 13 for Ireland, and he's lost a little bit of that mass that I thought was slowing him down, and definitely he looked a bit more like the athletic Robbie Henshaw that we knew. So if he can trim down a bit and get back to that athletic build that he was when he played for Connacht, played regularly at fullback for Connacht, then happy days, put him in. But if he's anything like the Says he was playing fullback against England, I don't think he's not quick, he's not agile, he's not athletic enough. Yeah,
no, I was really kind of messing with that, but
it's worth looking at. Like there's one thing we know
if you wanted
that he's very good in the air and he will always win the ball.
And if Bundy and Ringrose is your centre partnership, getting Henshaw on the pitch, at 15 might be work too. But again, well, in fairness, they tried it for one game, it didn't go well, and they just totally abandoned it. But we'll not bring that up again.
And Jack Carty was absolutely dominant in the air in his one contested up. He went up against, was it Stockdale, and he came down with the ball, and Stockdale's got about 6 inches on him. So
Stockdale Samson, well, since he's lost the hair, just hasn't been the same. I don't like
can't get his hair right.
Bring the hair back, Stockdale. What are we doing here? Unless he's going for like a Gareth Thomas impersonation, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'm alright with that.
He was solid. I think any other positions that kind of spring up to mind that someone made a really good claim for over the weekend.
The second row will be interesting going forward. I think
really interesting. Yeah.
Like Munster are goosed in second rows. Like they've lost 3 now. John Klein is out. Dyke Byrne is out. R.G Snyman is out.
And we look like we have 4 Irish qualified starters up here in the West. So come on, Niall Murray, hashtag Niler.
The first Irish international to be on Master of None. Let's hope so. Anyway, let's hope so. Second row, I thought, you're right. It was some good performances. I think Sexton, as you said, played pretty well. In fairness to him, I think the break has done him and Murray the world of good. Which hopefully, again, I want to see Conor Murray playing well. I agree with you, Sam. Sexton, look, playing well is still good, but it kind of delays the inevitable a little bit. But we can touch on that in later podcasts. But unless there's anyone else kind of guys you want to highlight who had a great game that might push for a green jersey, we can finish up. But I think we can revisit this again maybe after this weekend's games as well and see. I think this weekend we'll see a lot of lesser known players due to the games and the lineups. So maybe we'll see a couple of new lads that we weren't as sure about before, and they might have good games this weekend, and we can discuss them. But until that, lads, appreciate it as always. You can follow the podcast on Twitter. I've actually changed my to @MasterOfNonePod because
have you?
Yeah, because I don't know why I didn't do it from the start, if I'm being honest. I thought that must have been taken, but unless someone...
Master of None Pod's a long one, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but you don't have to type it all. You can just type MA and it should pop up.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about if I'm tweeting you an angry paragraph, are you taking up most of my anger with
I'm taking up... I'm not going to try to type that quickly. A lot of letters.
My potential characters.
Yeah, a lot of letters, yeah. Yeah, and you always do tweet me angry paragraphs. But it's the Twitter is now @Master of None Pod. Instagram and Facebook is also @Master of None Pod. And YouTube, we're trying to build up the subscribers on YouTube. So if you are one of those people who likes to view your podcast on YouTube, just go over and subscribe. I'll be uploading as well snippets from our podcasts when Westy says something stupid or something like that. They'll be going up, which happens regularly. And hopefully next weekend we would have much Connacht bias. If Munster deal, but we'll see. Do you want to give some predictions? Go on before we go.
So if we played the same team, the same team next week, we'd win. If we played the same 15 again, we'd beat Munster.
I'm gonna say we're gonna beat Munster by less than 7, but without the bonus point this time. I think it'll be 3 tries to 2. I think we'll dominate them in the line out because Snyman's out, and we have the 4 tallest people on the island. So, except for Dev.
Yeah, how dare you? Let's hope Niall Murray starts and plays well.
And let's hope Johnny Murphy shows up with the mullet. Wow. We can't lose.
I'm all for a mullet, but that's disgusting. I'm sorry.
That's the best thing. That's Super Rugby Art throw.
He reminds me of someone now, and I just can't. I couldn't pinpoint it, but I will find it out. It's a character in a film that's not.
It's not your man from Tiger King, is it?
Oh, Joe Exotic, yeah. Johnny Exotic. I like it.
Johnny Exotic.
All right, lads. Cheers, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.